Senior Center Commission meeting of July 20th, 2023. It's 4:02 p.m. And we're going to get rolling because it's going to be a nice full meeting. So first things first, introductions. I'm going to start, we can work our way down and around to Bob, end up at Bob. So I am Angela McConville. I'm the Senior Center Commission Chair this year, and last year, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before. But I love it. It's okay. I am the county representative on the group, so you guys choose one person from the county to satisfy that requirement. The one person that doesn't live in Iowa City. I live in Oxford. So that's me. I work for the City of North Liberty.
Lee McKnight. I'm retired, and I enjoy senior center activities.
Warren Paris, and I'm a longtime resident of Iowa City, more than 70 years, and I've been active in the senior center and looking forward to other activities that are coming up.
Jay Gilchrist, a longtime resident of the United States, but Iowa City only the past couple of years.
Nancy Strachny. Nancy Strachny. I'm a resident of Iowa City for 35 years.
I'm Susan Melliker. I'm a lifetime resident of Iowa City, and I'm not going to say how many years that is. I'm retired from full-time work, but I work part-time for the Iowa City Community School District.
Latasha Deloach, staff.
Kristen Crumry, staff.
Tasha Lara, business owner.
Bob Undine, I'm the Executive Director of Trail of Johnson County, and also the Chair of the Livable Community for Successful Aging Board of Johnson County.
Nice. All right. Introductions. We don't have anybody in the audience today. So we'll move on to agenda item number 2, minutes of the June 15th, 2023 meeting. I'm assuming everybody got to review those. I would take a motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody not approved, say nay. All right, those pass. Agenda item number 3, public discussion for items not on the agenda. This would mean we would invite people from the public up to speak and bring up something, but there is no one here. So we're going to move on to agenda item number 4, Trail presentation. We have Bob Unteat here from Trail.
Thank you for your time today, and I think the one of the things I want to emphasize is just the support that the City of Iowa City has given Trail from its very beginning in terms of space, both use of rooms when we need to have meetings, and also the shared space that we have with the director of the Senior Center Foundation is greatly appreciated and has made a lot of difference in terms of our sustainability, and we just appreciate being here and the assistance that Michelle especially has given us in the near founding of Trail and programming that continues. So that I think is important to emphasize. I apologize for my innovation in stapling, but if you look at your second page, what we'll do today is do a brief Trail history. We actually have an origin story that's a little bit longer that I give to new members and volunteers, but we'll get that. Some services from the beginning of Trail, and then later some additional stuff that we've added. One quick story, I hope some cool charts that you like, and then time for comments and questions. So if we go to our next slide. And I'm not going to make a habit of reading stuff, but I like reading origin stories. So once upon a time, 4 good friends of a certain age, all living within a few blocks of one another in Iowa City's historic North Side neighborhood, gathered on a cold January night. Their talk turned to concerns about aging and the difficulty of maintaining their older homes. What can we do to maintain our independence and our connections, they wondered, and who can we rope into helping us? Well, not included here, but they did some other research. They spoke to other people. They found that there were 2 other groups of seniors just retiring that were asking the same sort of questions. And eventually they got a grant from the University of Iowa Retirees Association to join a national organization called the Village to Village Network, which is a group of dozens of organizations around the country. There are only 2 in Iowa that support one another in doing services like what Trail does. They actually were given a mentor organization in Madison that was called SAIL, and I forgot what the acronym stands for, but we took from them, we riffed off that to create Trail, which is tools and resources for active, independent living. And with the support of the Senior Center again in providing space, we opened for business in 2017. And if we go to beginning Trail services, as these founders hired excellent staff. I emphasize founders because I wasn't there, but Susan was. So their initial services were essentially first social and educational programming. And this has been improved on here and there, but is essentially the same from its beginning. It involves all sorts of things. About a quarter of what members find in our members-only calendar is interesting offerings from the broader community. I remember in the 3rd or 4th month of my tenure here, I started in November of 2020, we heard with hundreds of other people from around the community a presentation that the University of Iowa Dean of the College of Medicine gave on vaccine creation. So we do make an effort to connect to the broader community in ways that are interesting. But also, there's a monthly meeting at one of our members' home with 9 people of the social educational programming where they find interesting stuff to do. And one of those, you'll look on the next page, is just a picture of our visit to the Frank Lloyd Wright House in Quasqueton, that's in Buchanan County, Iowa. And I think the social educational programming of our 250 members generally average 8 to 15 in attendance, and that'll vary from one to another. Day trips are normally 5 to 10. Most recently, we took 8 people to the Van Gogh exhibit in Davenport last month, and I added on a free benefit that no one anticipated. I graduated from Durant High School. On the way out to Davenport, we encountered a traffic jam on the other side of the highway going toward Iowa City that at one point we measured 9 miles long. And we were afraid that it might have continued when we were done in Iowa City, so we took Highway 6 back. And that will get you, if you do that between Davenport and here, through Durant, Iowa, where I went to high school. We took a 2-block detour just to see the high school and then got back on the road and left. So the benefits of Trail are more than you think. Other beginning Trail services included volunteer support services, and those will be the the charts that you'll see shortly. But we began, I think, maybe a year or 2 after, a medical advocacy program with a limited amount of training for a limited number of volunteers. It basically is that, if I'm going to a doctor and I want any kind of support, somebody just to hear the same information, but think of other questions or that I can talk to. You might be a volunteer and I'll ask you to come with me and you just give me that sort of engagement while we're chatting with Dr. Melliker, But we also do small yard projects. Sometimes those become projects that volunteers need to say, oh, I'll do this much, but not much more, because we'll get requests for like total landscaping or whatever. IT support, we had a 80-something year old member the other day who got a new iPad and wanted to get that started. So we had a volunteer that went out and just helped her get it going, get it set up. And a lot, currently around 70% of everything that we do is transportation to and from medical appointments or grocery stores or even lunch at a restaurant. And that all happens monthly at Trail. So the volunteer support services are exemplified those ways. And then we started with a vendor program that involved a committee of people that spent dozens of hours contacting plumbers and electricians and handymen and others, and asking them for letters of reference from customers and for proof of certification and insurance. So there's a lot of work on the part of people. During the pandemic, that committee kind of dissolved, and we also found in subsequent research focused on just adult day services that the challenges toward the later end of the pandemic and afterwards of maintaining, employment with service providers was so uncertain that we kind of put a pause on this, and we're now looking in the fall to maybe redo the recommended vendor service through more of a shared membership chat room of sorts. So we're redoing that, but there was a lot of turnover of staff and hiring issues that affected the ability of Trail to really make recommendations that made sense. So we're revising that vendor program, which has never been a core reason why we've done annual surveys for 4 or 5 years, and that's never been used by more than 10 to 15% of our members. But one quick story, Madeline, not her real name. Madeline was a member of Trail from 2019 to 22 when she died. She had been a loyal UI women's basketball fan for years before it became popular. She was there. And needed a lot of Trail volunteer service, especially in the last 2 years of her life. One volunteer, who was then a 26-year-old woman, who became a regular volunteer for Madeline. And they started going to UI women's basketball games together and became close friends. A few months before her passing, she requested of Trail a ride every day for 6 weeks for bariatric oxygen treatments. And this was a period of Trail's life when our volunteer service, monthly volunteer service, was something between 30 and 40 requests a month. So she was really going to, essentially double the number of requests. There was a measure of nervousness, but people really stepped up. And within a couple of weeks of that 6 weeks of requests, we had those requests filled. So she was able to not even worry about the future of getting that stuff done. It really is, I think that one story is just to say the heart of the service of Trail is grounded in a core of about 6 volunteers, and they really make a difference in people's lives. So, but it is one of literally thousands of examples, if you look at every service we've done in the last few years, that it's the way that Trail preserves independence and helps people. Supported memberships, where we're going next. Beginning in 2022, Trail began a program called Supported Memberships. It was then based on a sliding fee scale that related to area median income, which was a little bit complicated. But we looked at reducing the cost of membership to Trail based on the income of new members. It was a sliding fee scale. But currently, we've simplified things. If we have 30 supported members, and we now, to make it easier for everyone, offer free memberships to households making $34,000 a year or less, or individuals making $32,000 a year or less. There's a cost to that. I mean, we essentially have the Community Foundation of Johnson County and Midwest One Bank have been supporters of us, in particular, around that supported membership program. And then also additional funds come from just the membership fees of wealthier members of Trail. So we wanted to make that clean. When it was first started, there was conversation, and we had some agreement on the part of supported members that they wanted to give something. So it initially was a $10 membership fee. But we've just found that in looking at grants and stuff, if we absolutely make it free, it's just easier for some number of funders to understand. It's like, well, we don't want to support membership organizations. Okay, we're giving free service to a decent number of members, and this is well above the poverty level. But still, it is reflective that a decent number of households in a place that this is above average cost of living. $32,000 is not a lot of money to be making in Johnson County. So we're recognizing that too. And also in late 2021, two members of Trail, Joy Smith and Maggie Elliott, proposed a new program for us that we call Life Transitions. And that now includes, we pay a social worker at Oak Knoll named Kaylee Gilmore about 2 hours a month as a contract employee to do case management for us. There's probably 5 volunteers that we've given 4 hours of training with Kaylee's input to do this life transition. And it's what life transition means is loosely defined, and it's dependent on the member. But it could be that I've fallen and broken my hip, and I'm going to spend the next month or two, needing additional support of a variety of things, and we'll step up for that period. It could mean, in some cases, what we're finding is that it may not be that necessarily that there's a transition, but there's unmet needs of members. So we have one person I'm thinking of in particular who a life transitions volunteer has taken to legal aid to get assistance in creating a will and other documents of that kind. Has worked with the Visiting Nurses Association, I think, to get a limited amount of support that way. And they may even be engaged with the Heritage Area Agency on Aging around more specialized case management that they give. Because I think it's important to recognize that Trail is a volunteer service thing. And so our boundaries, we can't do everything. But it's still, the life transitions thing has become challenging as we're finding, we need to be able to anticipate with members, and if in some cases no support system at all. What happens if we're experiencing some signs of memory loss or things like that? We can't be a social service organization. But we are finding ways in which we can link people, so that they're safe. And that's the scenario that I just painted is probably only 2 or 3 people currently. But we worry and we engage with other organizations to make sure that the care that people need is something that we're connecting them to, as well as providing through volunteers. So that's life transitions. Oh, I wish I probably should have done a presentation and given you a big PowerPoint slide. We're looking at the growth of Trail now. And if you'll note, essentially this is memberships. So some of the memberships that we have 2 people in them. Household memberships would have 2 people in them, right? We at this moment, we have about 255 members that are reflected in 194 memberships, right? And so for a couple years there during the pandemic, our membership was slow. Between 21 and 22, that grew meaningfully. And now, what I would say is that what we find, we have 2 levels of membership. An affiliate member just does the social and educational things with us, and they can, if they wish, get 1 volunteer service a year, right? Full members have unlimited volunteer service requests and access to the social and educational programming. What we found is that some number of affiliate members, it's regularly in flux, and some number of those folks are moving into supportive housing of various type, and they end their membership, and then we find new members. So, but there is a steady and meaningful growth in the full membership that we have, as well as supported members that began just a few years ago. The other thing then, if we go to growth of Trail volunteer service, the bar thing, our membership since the third quarter of last year, I mean, the volunteer service we're providing has exploded. Whereas it used to be that for any volunteer that was part of Trail, you would do on average 1 or 2 requests a month. Now we're averaging almost 5.5 requests a month per volunteer. And I looked at last month's numbers of the 18, I think, requests that we had last month. 2 members provided 32 of those services, and the top 6 volunteers that we had, did about 60% of those services. We had 24 volunteers overall, but a good number of those just did like 2 or 3. And I think it's a pyramid like happens everywhere in the world, right? But it's just, there's a couple of those folks that I need to buy them ice cream regularly or something, just to let them know that we don't take them for granted at all. But it really has been significant. If you look at that print there, you know, the monthly averages have gone from the 2020, obviously things dropped off, but 19 and 21, we were roughly at 37 requests a month. That doubled in 2022, and we've increased it again by another 50% this year to 113. Since March, we haven't had a month under 100 requests, and I think 2 months ago we did 135. There's been an increase in members who request 5 or more services a month, volunteer services, and then we're increasingly getting requests like that that I talked about with Madeline, of medical cancer treatments or other things that are daily for 4 weeks or so. So the volunteers have really stepped up, and there's an increasing urgency in some of the requests that we're getting as well. So that's, did I go too long?
No, I haven't done.
Perfect. Any reactions or questions? Again, I apologize for the stapling, but
How many volunteers do you have now, Bob?
54, I think, is the last number. But as you know, that has always been the number I've been least confident in, because if I become a volunteer next month, I do 3 volunteer requests a month for the next 4 months, and then I take 2 months off, I'm still a volunteer. But we're not necessarily calling people who, don't do a request in a month. They may call us and say, I'm gone for 2 weeks on vacation, and then just not show up for the month after. So roughly. What I would say is that this year, we have averaged about 28 to 30 or so volunteers who do any service in a month. So.
And just so you know, I was the volunteer and membership coordinator for Trail for almost 2 years, from 2019 to early 22. Yeah. So worked upstairs in the Trail office, and so that's why Bob keeps. It's a great organization. It's really great.
What do you see your needs are as they come forward?
I would say I would be more comfortable if we had 20 more service volunteers who wouldn't need to do 5 calls a month, but 1 or 2 or something. I would say that immediately, that just to share that increased demand a bit more would be really helpful. In addition, what nonprofit doesn't need more money, right? That's a question that we have. We submitted last month, and I have no idea what the likelihood of any funding coming from it, but we submitted a grant proposal to the Federal Department of Health and Human Services. It took me about 25 hours, and I had 4 people, including 2 lawyers, do some editing to it. If that happens, we'll know about it in September, and we would get, over an 18-month period, in total $200,000. That would really help. We also would then have to do something that I proposed about 10 feet from here during my second interview before I was hired at Trail. They wanted me to come up with like some innovative way of engaging people. I didn't know what that would be, but this is what I made up. And I'll tell you also, I acted a little bit to get some research done. So about 2 years ago, I went to the University of Iowa Department of Geography, and I asked them if they could do maps by neighborhood of the percentage of people 60 and older who live in each neighborhood, and then color code those. And then also, they did overlay maps that include the number of people over 65 who live in poverty, the number of people over 65 in those neighborhoods by neighborhood who don't own cars, who own their own homes. And I think there was one other thing that he came up with. I don't know how you identify people over 60 who don't own cars, but they know how to do that. And then they laid them all together. And what I suggested is that one way that we might try to do something different would be see if we could pick 2 blocks and do a door knocking campaign and try to find volunteers and members who live near each other. So if the Health and Human Service grant comes through, we've got to do that in at least 2 neighborhoods in Johnson County. And we may even choose one, like a small town like Hills or something like that, to be one of those places. But that's a maybe sort of future thing. But I would say, to answer you most directly, what we need the most is people and money. Other than that, we're just fine.
Okay.
Do you run your transportation 7 days a week or just Monday through Friday?
Most requests we have are not weekend based. And Susan may know this too, but I don't think historically that's been a request. We probably could get it done if we had them, but whatever people make the request, we have a system that it's a software program that your request, if you were a member, would go out to all of our volunteers by an email system, and then whoever claims that first, it shuts off nobody else can duplicate that. But it hasn't happened much weekends.
Have you had to deny rides or say that there wasn't a volunteer available?
I researched the first 987 requests of Trails history once, and I found that we denied service to 4 people. And I think in every instance, they had made a request 1 or 2 days in advance.
Mm-hmm.
We asked members for a week's notice. And we sometimes were able to do more than that. My current associate, Jessica Hahn, will get on the phone and kindly harass the next volunteers. Or I don't mean harass, encourage, provide opportunities for people if they're not responding and there's need out there. She does that a lot. How are we as a tenant of your building?
I don't know.
Oh, good.
I mean, like, there's no problems that I know of.
Good deal. That's
You
all
know,
we
A
need.
quiet tenant is always a great tenant. No, I mean, seems to have good relationships when we, had our development specialist, so,
Yeah.
no complaints.
Also,
Where's somebody let you know?
Okay.
I was just, I got to go into my sales mode for trail. Also, the beauty of being a trail volunteer is that you can volunteer for the services you want to provide. So not all the volunteers are transportation volunteers. Some only, do, I don't even remember what the categories are, but, you can just be a volunteer transportation provider, or you can just be, a screw in the light bulb provider or a technology volunteer.
Okay.
So not all volunteers, and so that's what's nice about it's a really flexible volunteer opportunity, and you can say no. I mean, if it doesn't work that week, then it's not like something you have to say, I'm going to do this every Monday at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's all over the place, and you can choose if you want to do it or not. So it's nice that way.
I had a question. Madeline would probably, with medical problem, be able to ride seats.
I think anyone can ride seats. I believe
No,
that's
it's a
true.
long application process. It
Some
takes 30
cities they
days.
can, but
Oh, yeah.
in the city, well, it used to be 75 and older was frail elderly, but I don't know if it is anymore.
Yeah, I've forgotten that now too. I used to know what it takes to be eligible, but I would say too, for about 3 years, until 3 months ago, the county's mobility coordinator was a member of our membership committee and referred a lot of people to membership in Trail. So, what I've heard
Is the thing like preventing you from doing it, like the cost for there and back are $4 per ride?
is what preventing.
$4 per ride.
Oh,
The cost per ride to ride seats.
Pardon?
To ride seats, the cost, the fare cost.
You're going there and back.
yeah.
Well, now it'll be free because they have to give equitable services to City of Iowa City Transit. So they'll be moving to free seats for Iowa City residents.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, don't quote me. They're trying to figure it out, how it's going to work with the technology they have. But so I run the North Liberty Transportation Assistance Program, so I'm very intertwined with transportation services in Johnson County, and Kelly, the transportation coordinator, and I work together a lot. So, yeah. It'll be really exciting to have free bus fare in Iowa City. But it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get enrolled in seats if you apply, because you have to go through and have your doctor fill out forms. There's a lengthy application process, so not everybody gets access to it. You can only get access to seats paratransit if you can't utilize the current circuitous, like regular bus routes. So
Yeah, and
county people
Yeah,
also.
and the advantage of trail volunteer services, I mean, transportation services, is that you literally can become a member of trail and like put in a request and like the next day get a ride. And that person will pick you up and they will take you to the hospital for your doctor's appointment, drop you off. You know, you can text them when you get done or call them or just decide a pickup time and they'll be there to pick you up. So it's door to door, whereas like, and it Seats is a great program, but you have to schedule it really far in advance, and it's multi-stops, right? You might be 4 people on the bus and they go all over town and drop them off. So just an advantage of the trail volunteers too.
I mean, usually with the Seats application, it takes longer because of the doctors having to fill it out. But we've passed that step too. Sometimes you don't have to have the doctors fill it out either. We'll ask that the doctors fill it out, but sometimes it's not even really a requirement, depending on what you answer on the application. And it doesn't take about 6 weeks. Usually when it gets on my desk, I'm usually looking at it right away.
All right. Well, I heard it from the person, the boss. Yeah. So.
Are there other subsidies that people can get for membership outside of the supported membership, like through insurance or through any sort of?
Yeah, we haven't. I don't know that we've ever looked for that, but no, essentially no. Yeah. If you have ideas, I'll take them though.
What is the cost of each level of membership?
The affiliate membership for an individual is $15 a month. You want to come and hang out, go to art galleries or wine and cheese or whatever, that's $15 a month. For the full membership for an individual is $50 a month. And then for households, oh, good Lord, Susan saved me. I forgot what it is for individuals, for affiliate.
I don't know.
$195 a year, I think, whatever that comes to a month.
That sounds right.
And then it's $780 a month for households, for full membership. Yeah. So,
But transportation's expensive.
and we've done comparisons like the return on investment stuff. You know, the people at the 15 or 20 people that ask for yard work, they're getting a couple of months worth of value out of that, out of each request, I think. And transportation is, not compared to seats, clearly, but there's different elements to that too. I mean, like I think it does matter, especially with some folks who have stopped driving, or if they have a serious medical illness, that they can get into a car. Often people take the same folks and they develop, a little bit of a relationship with them. I mean, it's more comfortable, both physically and psychologically for folks to get into. And the thing that I like boasting about that with is just that's not me. I didn't do that. But if I think of like one of our better volunteers, and she was a founder or near founder too, Diana Lundell, and she's just the sweetest person in the world. You get into her car, it's like getting wrapped in, I don't know, velvet or something like that. It's just, and that is a common, what we can't sell, but I think what I've encountered is real in social educational things and from what we've heard over and over again from members, is that it's just, there's a warmth and care from trail volunteers that I don't think legitimately cares a bus driver could provide, would be able to. So,
And you're not limited to specific hours either, where I find trouble, finding trips for people outside of normal business hours. So that's a plus. Let me tell you, some of those early morning dialysis trips, and you're trying to figure out something for someone. And those
permission for one last
seats
story.
are hard to get. So yeah.
We had one member who had created a relationship with a volunteer, and they connected with one another about a outpatient treatment. So Joe, the member, got picked up by Jim, the volunteer. I have to remember these fake names. Joe was dropped off at 5:45 a.m. for this procedure, and then Jim went home and waited for 4 hours. I mean, basically, he put his day on hold and got a call to come and pick up the member and took him home, and then kind of inappropriately requested of the volunteer that he come into his home and shave his head, which the volunteer did.
Nice.
Now, that volunteer is one of our very best volunteers, so I didn't call him up and chew him out, but it's like, we're not going to advertise head shaving as a service we provide.
Well, you
And that
just
ended up
told
being
everybody who watches our meet.
6 hours of volunteer service. I mean, basically, that person put aside most of their day. And what we're asking of volunteers is like a 1 to 2 hour commitment, and that was just way above and beyond. But I think the real point of that story isn't so much that we do need to have conversation with volunteers about what the limits are of service, but it's also just a testimony to a lot of kindness exists in the volunteers that we have.
Do you still do the phone call checkups when people request?
Oh, I forget the
'Cause that was important during the
phone
pandemic.
buddies, because I don't regularly download the statistics for it, but we're averaging, I think for more than a year, we've averaged 100 what we call a phone buddy call. So yeah, that's another 30 to 60 minutes a month that some number of volunteers are doing. And those statistics and that arrangement is done through our volunteer committee, so that's why I forget about it, and silly, I shouldn't. I report on it to our board, but I just don't think of it top of mind, so.
And I did the training onboarding thing once a long time before the pandemic, and it's really thorough, and I appreciated that. Yeah, so if anybody wants to volunteer, they can contact you.
Yeah,
True.
sure.
Anybody else have questions?
Nope. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks for the update. All right, moving on to agenda item number 5, operational overview. Latasha's going to roll through the things that have happened last month and what's coming up.
Okay, well, I'll bullet for time purposes. Just be aware that in the hallway here, there is our equity standard as well as their monthly. We have a beautiful display. This one is really great that you can flip up and kind of see who the different people is. Thank you, Kristen. It looks really, really good. We're celebrating different things out there, so please check that board. That's for public and as well as commissioners to brag about. Looks great. We still have a couple of affinity groups, and hopefully we'll develop some more. And what I mean by that is we have our queer elders group and elders of color group going really, really well. Really excited about some potential community connection meals that we'll be developing in partnership with the downtown district. So we'll get more information. As we know, this is very new. It's very new, but it's been in my head for about 3 years. And since we're no longer a congregate site as of June, just trying to find a way to kind of bring that lunch feel connection piece back into the building. So potentially reaching out to local businesses to see if they want to be the caterer that month or the sponsored caterer that month, to help us to bring some of that lunchtime feel back into the building. We have had the opportunity to continue to work with Easton Design, and they're specifically helping us. They helped us with our rebranding, and so we're rebranding our annual report, which we haven't had one in a couple years, but it's been a part of the rebranding kind of craziness, and we changed a lot of things on how we report. So we'll be able to take our staff photo, hopefully, next week. Last time it looked a little dystopian outside, so we decided not to take the picture out there because it was kind of grim. So it got rescheduled. So hopefully next week it'll be fine, but I heard it's supposed to be hot, so we're going to smile fast and keep it moving. So we'll be able to get a really great report out that everyone can be able to access online, and a printable copy will be available here at the building. We recently went through an extensive feasibility study, and this is the report back. I'm not going to go through it into too many details, but I will say that we had about 25 or plus people were interviewed specifically talking about the senior center. What we found was that over 50% of the people were really excited about the exterior project of the renovation, which was really interesting to us. We were looking at, do we need to do a capital campaign to raise money to continue to do improvements on the building? And, we got a yes and no answer there, which was interesting, but we definitely have people who want to contribute in some way to our renovation. The exterior part of the building, thankfully, through some advocacy, as well as some approvals, we have the funds to pay for the exterior part of the building. So you'll be able to, so FYI, probably this fall, fingers crossed, and next summer, probably going into the next fall, they'll be working on the building. So it's going to be a little dust. It's going to be, because it's an old building, so they got to do some things out there. So that'll be happening. Really excited about that, and hopefully at the top of the year, we'll start talking about the interior renovation. So I'll be, bringing some ideas to you all, inviting you all to some different meetings. Also, my hope is to hire a firm, hopefully here at the top of the year, to do a pretty intensive strategic plan. I really feel like we have a really strong mission and vision that's very clear that other people, even our members and public, can articulate, but it's going to be more about like, how do we continue to weave that idea, or do we need to make tweaks to that to be able to carry out the future rollout of what we want to do here at the Senior Center. So really excited about that, and I'll let you all know about that. We have two programs that I think it's three things. I'm almost done. One is nights and weekends are returning. We are in the process right now of, I've got the approval for it, but it's a staffing thing. My hope is to hire 2 or 3 people to help us staff our nights and weekends. What that looks like, I'm not sure. I have a meeting tomorrow, but I'll be able to maybe bring something back next year. I'm looking at potentially, it might look like a September, October situation when we get those going, but really excited about being able to bring that back. So a couple extra hours in the evening, Monday through Thursday, a couple hours on Saturday, a couple hours on Sunday. So looking forward to that and bringing more people back into the building that like to use those hours that are working or just don't want to come in here during the day. I get it. I understand, each own. I work out at night. I'm one of those people, so I get it. And then we have 2 programs that assist people with paying for. I just wanted to say this publicly. I've said it before, but just a reminder. We have one program that's currently right now working as a Renew Active, and it's a part of folks' Medicare plan, a part of their health insurance.
Yeah, it's a United Healthcare
Yes.
member benefit for not all of their many options, but
It's one of them.
certain plans have that benefit.
Yes. So if you know people who have United Healthcare, they can get a free membership here at the Senior Center. We just ask that they check in. That's just a part of how the health benefit works, so that way that we get reimbursed for that from the health insurance people, which we're paying for, instead of having to worry about it from their pocket. So we have that option, as well as we recently got approval, as in IE today, that we can move forward on silver sneakers, which will be an opportunity here for folks who have insurance to have silver sneakers to kind of figure out. We haven't figured out the pieces, okay, but not at all. But we're hoping that that program will allow us to have free membership for folks who qualify for silver sneakers, regardless of where they live. But we just got to look at that, and it probably will be a check-in. It's like the Renew Active as well. So we got to figure those pieces out, because we want to make sure that it's going to be at least the same price. Because as you all know, if you're Iowa City resident, it's only $40 a year, or it's $10 if you're low-income senior. So, or if you ain't got it, let me know, okay? We are not trying to prevent anybody from having access to the building. We're also hoping that with our work with Easton, I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place, that we'll be able to advertise a little better about our rentable spaces. I'm really excited this Friday. There's going to be a fashion show here. And I've been kind of coming in and peeking during the last couple times they've been here. So I'm really excited to bring my kids to watch the fashion show. So I'm just excited about seeing other people use our building innovatively and differently than it's been used in the past. And so that's very helpful for us on a rental or, you know, other ways of connecting. These are all younger folks of color that are doing this fashion show. So I think it brings in a different mixture of people into the building, as well as we have some really great partnerships coming up with Hansher. So just trying to continue to build out into the community. I'm looking for opportunities to present at other groups publicly. So if anyone wants me to come and do a little song and a dance, probably more of a song and less of a dance, then I'm willing to come out and talk about the Senior Center and rally the troops, because there's some really great things coming up, as well as, should I mention the ambassador thing? I know I'm rambling. So one other program that I've been talking about for ages, feels like, but that we're finally going to start implementing probably here soon, is called the Senior Center Ambassadors Program. And this is a program of volunteers who will specifically be able to do things like be a host on the third floor. So when people are coming in and trying to navigate the building, they'll specifically be able to give direction. They'll provide tours, help us with welcoming people, etc. So they'll get a badge. That's our fingers crossed. We hope they get a badge that they'll be Senior Center ambassadors for us and be able to talk about the Senior Center for us. So if any of our commissioners are interested in being ambassadors, which it makes so much sense as commissioners that you would want to be an ambassador, because that's what city council's kind of asked you to be, that you all would, if you have time, be willing to volunteer an hour or two, or whenever you're available, to just come over and help us out. Maybe it's a weekend, whatever works for you. But we'll figure those pieces out. These are all things that are working. So you just know that in between all the mandatory things, like this crazy study we're doing the entire city, where we are working on these other projects. We're really excited about the forecast of where services are going. And just, you know, we saw that Elders of Color group go from about 10 to 15, and we're hoping next month it's 20 in it, and growing, as people have wanted to see more folks of color utilizing the building. So just really excited about what's happening there and some of their plans and et cetera. I just so happen to be in there that, you know, I'm trying to help coordinate a little bit, me and Kristen, but like I don't get to be in a lot of the other groups, but just really excited about what's happening there, what's happening here in the building. All right, I'm done.
What time is the fashion show tomorrow?
I think it's like 5 to 6 is like social, and I think the show starts at 6 or 6:30, one of those two. I think it's in our program guide, so I have to look. It's definitely in a program guide, but I'm really excited because the clothing line is called Irma to Yvonne, and actually the fashion designer that's doing it, she was in my girls group from 7th grade through 12th grade, and so I've known her a very long time, and so was really honored that she wanted to use the Senior Center. And I told her, I'm like, don't embarrass me. She's like, I wouldn't never. So I'm really excited about her work and how she is creative. And it's a great idea, just using like things from thrift stores and create, you know, it's like a sustainability thing, right? It's like using things that people are giving away and being able to create fashion from it. It's smart. And, you know, that's the future, right? Like really thinking about how we do that. So anyways, I'm excited about it. I'm going to definitely be here and popping my fingers and enjoying myself. So I hope you all will join. And yeah.
That's the nice kind of stuff you can do when you're open in the evenings for a couple hours. Like
Yeah.
people like Tasha and I work during the
Yeah,
day, and
yeah.
we don't get to enjoy. And so maybe
Me
people can
either.
hold meetings here. I mean, you're here.
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm not out here.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited at the possibilities to engage all kinds of generations
Yes.
building. So
That's also my hope, is to do a wellness certificate program for the community and do some Fit Over 40 as a recruitment for future. But again, I have a
you have a lot. On your
dream work list of things that I want to do.
Well-
Give me a year. I'll get some of it done.
And I want to take a moment to remind the public who's watching our meeting, you know, because everybody sits and waits for this meeting every month, that the staff here at the Senior Center is very small. So the fact that you guys are expanding hours, I know you're going to hire people, but that's just brave.
Yes.
I feel like with as few people who run the hours that we have now.
We definitely are
Like-
being creative about how we
Yes.
are going to do that. Do I have the full answer? Nope. Is it going to happen? Yep.
Thank you very much for making that work, because I know that was like a response on your
It's a-
surveys, right?
It's a
is
response from the
hours. Yeah.
community, and so I am definitely appreciative of the opportunity to do it, because we need it. It's not like a want, it's a need, and so we're glad to be able to provide equitable services across our programming that, you know, across the library and Parks and Rec, to be able to provide that here at the Senior Center again. We've had it before, but it was important to me that it's staffed with actual staff and not just our student employees. So too much can happen, and so it was really important.
A lot of the times people can think that the government like surveys them to death, but you know, we do take the answers and we do things with them, because sometimes you don't know that something's a problem until somebody tells you. I mean, we're all in the weeds of things like approving applications and budget and, you know, RFPs. And so if we don't know there's an issue, we can't fix it. So surveys, are an easy way of saying, hey, look,
Also know that the
80%
answer in government never comes quickly.
It's
So-
don't expect quick.
So don't expect a quick turnaround.
Unless there's funding for it somewhere that's just hanging out there waiting to be plucked, it's not going to happen quick.
It takes a long time. We've been working on
Fun
renovation
money.
of this building since
Yes.
2019.
Yes.
So
The whole time I've been on this commission. It's been
Yes.
a long time. All right. Thank you. You want to take off? I know you're like, I keep going. Okay.
thanks for coming, Bob.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob.
Moving on to commission discussion items. So Senior Center master plan, do we have any updates at this? I mean, you gave us a brief.
Yeah, it's just
of
right
the
now we're in
exterior.
the pieces of, you know, getting close to construction and figuring out those pieces. So
Awesome. So last month, people had talked about some sustainability things that they proposed. We couldn't really have a really dense discussion of sustainability ideas because it wasn't a thing on the agenda. We're kind of limited to what's on the agenda listed out. So somebody had mentioned maybe we should put that on the agenda this month. Sustainability ideas for this building, for the processes here. You know, things like somebody had thrown out, you know, solar panels for the roof. So this is an opportunity for you to kind of mention something and us to have a conversation about it. I didn't really have a planned presentation or anything, but it's open discussion.
Good. I was at breakfast this morning with a bunch of gray hairs. Mentioned that I was on the Senior Center Commission, and if they had any ideas to just let me know. So I got 3. One is square dancing. Another was, for instance, maybe bus trips to Amana for a meal. Another person suggested political presentations of some kind or another. I didn't know if that would go or not, but those are the suggestions that I received.
Great.
Any other commentary under this agenda item?
Our we supposed to be talking about sustainability? Okay. I want to add something to the agenda,
Okay.
Okay.
but I'll do that whenever the right time.
Okay. So since sustainability ideas are exhausted, we'll just move on to.
I think Jay has some.
Oh,
Yeah, we talked last
Yes.
month about some, it was just kind of a fluke. Was it you, Lee, or somebody said, let's have a pool and a garden on top? And I said, well, maybe some kind of a green roof idea might be good, and that might be simpler rather than an elaborate garden or something. And I don't know if that's maybe something that could be talked to the developers about. But then I was just having another thought about solar. If it's not feasible for our roof here, I wonder if solar could be considered for this. There's several city buildings right downtown here, and there's a couple of empty lots and things. So I just wonder if a proposal could come from us to the broader city government to say, well, why don't you have some kind of a urban solar farm or something like that, Anyway, those are just a couple of thoughts along those lines. But yeah, I sort of think whatever sustainable we can pull off in as far as renovations and things go, and as far as ongoing development, it's certainly going to be important to have more shade, more trees. I know there's limited space around the block here, but we need to be thinking of, we're going to be doing the city's going to be doing this Spot the Hot program this coming Saturday, I think, and people are going to be driving around town measuring the temperature at different places. I'm sure downtown is going to be one of those, certain areas of downtown is going to be hot spots. So anyway, if there's a way that we can be a part of the team to contribute to those things, I would advocate for that.
Absolutely. I think we definitely, as part of the overall city plan, is to, be as sustainable as possible. When specifically looking at this building, and we went into it with our architectural firms, was looking at how we could specifically reduce emissions and that we can become more sustainable. So we did specifically look at a solar option. Unfortunately, our rooftop will not allow for that. We've talked about that. And also what was suggested, the only thing that we could come up with for solar for the senior center in particular would have cost millions of dollars, because we would have had to dig underground and put a solar farm out further in the city somewhere just to get it to come back to the building. So we're like, like we have a limited amount. So it wasn't that so our goal is to reduce emissions, I think, was it 40% or something? We're trying to get under a certain number. So that's why we're changing our HVAC system and different things like that, so that we can reduce. And our building, a lot of that lobby is plaster and stone and brick, so we're trying to figure out other ways. So this is not turning you down. We definitely will bring up these different items, but I want you all to know that as a part of our renovation project, we did specifically and are continuing to look at, even if it's just shades on the windows or to keep down the cost of AC or different things like that. So we know that we have to, as a part of the city council strategic plan, as well as there's a sustainability department that is going to make sure that we're doing that. But that's great ideas. And if there's other things that we can do, a small project that we're doing is what's that we're composting. So we've started a small composting project here, and we hope to also expand that. some of the other small things that we're trying to do. So we're definitely aware of sustainability. It's really important. It's important to me personally. So like we want to do that for sure. But thank you for those. Kristen has a note of it, and we'll make sure that I'll speak with the city manager about some of these ideas. And some of the things you suggested, Lee, are definitely feasible. It might take some partnerships, but definitely feasible.
Was there any consideration on solar on the adjacent parking ramp as a roof and pipe over?
Now that part I don't know. I don't know that part, but I'm pretty sure in somewhere there's probably some kind of report about it. I would reach out to the sustainability office here at the city, and they might know the answer to the different buildings that have been looked at specifically for that, but I couldn't tell you that.
What's nice about the city of Iowa City is the government has really invested staff time into sustainability. So they have a whole office that tackles this stuff. So she doesn't have to be an expert at it because she can call the experts at the city sustainability office. Yeah.
And they will come.
And I know,
They're
I know,
very
like,
serious
the
about that
green
stuff.
roof we mentioned last time, but I think the access to the roof is very limited. It's
Yeah.
like a ladder.
It's a ladder to get to the rooftop.
And when I worked at Johnson County, we built the ambulance and medical examiners building, and it had a green roof, and the maintenance for it is pretty hefty. And their green roof is like flat, and it's like the same level, like you can walk out onto their green roof portion to maintain it, so it's pretty easy to access.
Yeah.
I think that was like a big thing, is to maintain it.
Well, we got to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
We got to figure out sustainability. This is not making an excuse. This is like we absolutely got to figure that out because it's important. I mean, I got little people. I want them to be able to, enjoy Earth too. So, definitely on my mind. So if you all see things around the building that we try to use a lot of, green options when we're doing meals and different things like that. So, but if you see other things that we can improve on or something, let us know. Write us a note. We have comment cards, and we'll try to do our best to respond.
That's a good thing about it. I see it as a whole village conversation.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad to hopefully know that we're a part of that conversation too.
Absolutely.
Do you think, Jay, we should get somebody from the sustainability office to come talk to us about
Be
it?
a good idea.
That'd be
Yeah.
nice. Or like recycling. I know they do
Future
a
agenda
lot of
item,
stuff
sure.
too. So maybe that's something we can ask them if they'd come to an upcoming meeting.
Yeah. Or like we have that Green AmeriCorps team too.
Wow, that's amazing.
They come, they'll change light bulbs and do all kinds of stuff. Yep.
I wish I had that resource. That's nice.
How, do we have any influence over ecumenical towers?
Unfortunately, we don't. I think Ecumenical Towers overall is run out of a corporation out of Minnesota.
Oh.
So, they have local people that work there, but it's a corporation out of Minnesota. So, I mean, I think, if we send a note or something, but I don't know how far it would go. Yeah. That would have to be something that the residents would have to push over there.
All right, if we're done with that, we'll move on to Commissioner's Report of Community Correspondence. So this is our opportunity to mention things. We can't really have a full discussion amongst our members of the things that are mentioned, but you can make announcements, suggestions that you've heard from the community for sure.
I would love a designated bus stop for the senior center, like across the street. The bus goes down there anyway, so it wouldn't take much for them to stop.
Oh, on the Washington Street door?
Yeah.
I have a little, Tasha might know about this too.
I looked at
don't-
you.
so I'm uncertain, I don't want to speak over it. I know I've spoken with the parking department about that in the past, and we've talked about it before. So when they did the routes, redid the routes, what was it, last year? Yeah. They did a big study, and unfortunately, the Washington Street corner at Gilbert Street is too tight of a corner for the 40-foot buses to turn there and come up this way.
Why did they come down?
Yeah, so when they come down from the opposite direction, they're not making the turn there. The turn going outbound is okay, but the turn that they would have to make coming inbound is
Well,
a problem,
if they
is my understanding.
stopped at the other side of the street and people could walk over.
Oh, so you mean it instead of the stop that's right here on the bus stop right here on the corner, you're saying they should do a secondary stop right across the street, and then people, would they have to walk across the street?
People I knew were catching a bus up by the mall.
Oh yeah, if it's going a different direction, that it seems like only a few buses, and they're outbound going east. So if people are going west, then they probably do have to walk up to the Pentacrest area. Yeah. So those buses that are coming down, they're going east. They're going Court Hill, going out towards like City High, that kind of direction. Towncrest. I don't know what the new names are now because I ain't real.
Towncrest.
Okay. But they're going out to that area. So I don't know if they could put a bus stop right there. If so, we would have, the issue would be crossing the street.
Like
They
there's
would
one-
still have to walk back up to the corner to cross.
Because there's one right directly here, kind of corner to here, which is we call it the library stop. But then we have one right here on Gilbert. So if you're thinking putting one in between there, then that's something we can discuss.
Yeah.
But again, the question would be crossing over from that space.
Yeah, we would have to make it a, but I don't know how much, it might be, I don't know, we can ask. But I just know that it's already a crosswalk. It's going to be about 15 or 20, maybe like 40 feet from there already. So do we want to do two crosswalks that close together?
Right.
That might be an issue with streets and stuff like that.
So there is a stop at Lynn and
Yeah.
Washington,
Lynn and Washington right here on the corner.
but that's just going one way. Yeah. And the downtown shuttle goes by there, what, every 15 minutes
Every
or
15
so?
when school is in session, yeah.
So you can get it one way, but not, for the other way, you have to walk back uptown, I guess.
Yeah, you got to walk 2
The
blocks.
this street is too narrow to have both buses going side by side like that. So we only do it the one way.
Maybe it'd be nice for them to have a bench. You know, to let people that get into the senior center by bus can wait.
You mean the one right here on the corner? There's a bench right there. It's a bench.
I don't know where.
Well, maybe one day if I see you out there, you can point it and let me know. We can schedule something and you can show me.
I don't ride the bus myself. I ride seats.
Yeah. So yeah, Seats has the ability to drop off right at the door, but the closest bus stop to us is right here by the building, the corner of the building, and then people have to walk like, I guess, half a block or so to get to the door.
That's not bad.
But we can look into it. I mean, it's an ongoing conversation. So, you know, we're not turning any suggestions away. We'll look into it, and if we're not able to, you know, you got to understand, in the government, it took 8 departments to put in 3 bike racks. Okay? And that took me 2 years to get the bike rack, maybe 4. I think it was like 4 years to get 3 bike racks. So you know what I'm saying? So it's not it's never a straightforward, easy answer. There's multiple pieces that go into it. You know, streets, then there's people that do sidewalks, and then there's permits, and then there's who's got it gets complicated quick, but it's not impossible. I'm just saying it might take a little time, and it might take a little research.
There's the technology, adding all that into the bus, and then you're going to be late to the next stop, and then infrastructure.
Yeah, and, yeah,
Letting people know, so updating all the documents. And,
okay.
oh my gosh,
I was like, ugh.
stressful.
But it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
Government workers have learned to be very patient, even though we're very impatient.
And
So we
we've talked
try.
a lot in the last, not maybe this group, but the other groups before, about people getting to and from the senior center and not liking to drive in the winter. And how do you get here if you don't like to drive? Or how do you get here? How do you park if you don't like parking ramps? Or if you can't drive anymore because there's a point in someone's life where they'll stop driving. So yes, how do we get people here safely and in a way that's efficient and fast enough for them to make it worth their time to come down here? So changing a little bit of a bus stop might help some people justify their trip down here. So
We'll ask questions.
yes. Okay. So anybody else have anything that they'd like to mention to the group that maybe we could talk in full next time? Okay, so we'll move on to future agenda items. I know we talked about calling out Sustainability Department, seeing if they'd come at some point. It doesn't have to be next meeting because that's fast, but yeah. I like those people. They're very innovative, interesting stuff that they
I think
work
the
on.
things that you mentioned, Lee, were like more program ideas, and those might be good to give to Michelle.
Yeah.
You talked about political discussions, and I forget what else it was, but you had
Bus
3
trips.
things.
Mana trip and something else.
Square dancing.
Square dancing. Oh, we
Square
have square dancing, don't we?
There's contra dancing, which is not exactly square dancing, but similar, that
kind of
meets over at the
dancing?
rec center. Contra.
Oh, Contra. I was like, are you trying to say country? But I got you, Contra.
So
The rec center, monthly.
Solon Senior Advocates used to do bus trips when Sandy was running the show there, and they were popular.
Very.
Very popular. Day trips out to locations around Iowa.
Yeah.
They'd always stop, I think, at the casino on their way back or something like that. There was always like
There was always something.
there was
Some
always
food
one
involved. There was
stop
always
on the way
something.
back.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But we have a trip for the Colonel's game, so it's not impossible. So it's possible. We're getting there.
You gotta get people registered so you can afford the bus, and then
Yeah.
the bus, and making sure it's fully accessible. Everywhere you're
There's
going.
lots of
and
pieces, but not impossible.
Not impossible, but it's a lot of background work. So, again, small staff. Okay. Any other future agenda items? If not, we're gonna adjourn at 5:13 p.m. There we go.
Woo.
Boom.